Yes, Mr. Speaker. I just did want to rise to offer some supplementary comments to the point of order raised on Monday by the Honourable Member for Saanich-Gulf Islands, and further the two submissions that were just advanced by the House Leader for the Liberal Party. The Honourable Member, that being the member for Saanich-Gulf Islands, in her arguments went on to cite at some length some academics and some press clippings, but not really zeroing in on the full content of Speaker's rulings. She did reference a few Speaker's rulings and did the odd selected quotation from them, but I think it would be useful for the House to hear some more complete citations or quotations from those decisions of the Chair that actually capture the essence of those decisions on how bills such as C-38 should be dealt with. In the ruling on the 1982 Energy Bill, Madame Speaker Sauvé said at page 15,532 of the debates, quote, "It may be that the House should accept rules or guidelines as to the form and content of omnibus bills. But in that case, the House, and not the Speaker, must make those rules. Therefore, having heard argument and having examined Bill C-94, I must now rule on the basis of existing precedents which do not support the proposition that the bill should be divided or struck down." End quote. And I emphasize that "or struck down" because that, of course, is what she is asking you to do in this case. Madame Speaker Sauvé also ruled on June 20th, 1983 at page 26,538 of the debates on the Western Grain Transportation Bill as follows, quote, "Although some occupants of the chair have expressed concern about the practice of incorporating several distinct principles into a single bill, they have consistently found that such bills are procedurally in order and properly before the House." End quote. And of course, this bill doesn't even meet that test of distinct principles. It's all one principle, the implementation of our budget. Now, the Honourable Member also, and that is the member for Saanich-Gulf Islands, quoted some decisions of Mr. Speaker Fraser, including one reference which even she acknowledged was at best obiter dicta. In his June 8, 1988 ruling on the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement, he cited the 1982 ruling of Madame Speaker Sauvé, calling it at page 16,257 of debates, quote, "the Chair's traditional position," unquote. And that led Mr. Speaker Fraser to say that, quote, "Until the House adopts specific rules relating to omnibus bills, the Chair's rule is very limited, and the Speaker should remain on the sidelines as debate proceeds and the House resolves the issue," end quote. He cited himself in his later rulings on April 1st, 1992, at page 9149 of debates, and December 7th, 1992, at page 14,735 of debates. Underpinning her submissions, that the member of Saanich-Gulf Islands, were what she described as Mr. Speaker Lamoureux's so-called misgivings in a January 26, 1971 ruling. Let me add to the record the paragraph she left out on page 284 of the journals, which immediately followed the one quoted by the member for Saanich-Gulf Islands. The Speaker went on to say, quote, "At the time, having now reached second reading and having had this bill before us for some time, I doubt whether we should take the very drastic and extreme position, as I suggest to honourable members it would be, of saying that this bill is not acceptable to the House, that it should not be put by the government, and that it should not be considered by honourable members. In my view, it should be the responsibility of the Chair, when such bill is introduced and given first reading, to take the initiative and raise the matter for the consideration of the House by way of a point of order," end quote. Indeed, as the honourable member for Saanich-Gulf Islands opined in her opening remarks at page 8719 of Monday's Hansard, quote, "I still think there is a compelling case that the House must act to set limits around omnibus legislation," end quote. Later, at page 8720, she conceded that, quote, "It is clear that the Speaker is not, at present, and in the absence of rules from the House, to limit the length and complexity of omnibus bills, entitled to rule that an omnibus bill is too long, too complex, or too broad in scope," end quote. What she is seeking to do, Mr. Speaker, through a point of order, is to try to have the Speaker, in fact, implement new rules, effectively new standing orders. That is, of course, not the proper way of proceeding. Moreover, it's worth noting that over the decades of the prevailing status quo, the House has not availed itself of any opportunities to vary the status quo with regard to the standing orders in this matter. Mr. Speaker, I won't repeat myself from Monday afternoon when I articulated the consistent theme of Bill C-38 as it relates to the implementation of this year's budget, Economic Action Plan 2012. It is a comprehensive suite of measures designed to ensure jobs, economic growth, and long-term prosperity, a package which, as you will recall, was endorsed by a vote of this House on April 4th, 2012. So in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, Bill C-38 is not only built around a consistent theme, but its construction is not, as noted by your predecessors, for the Chair to veto. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Saanich-Gulf Islands on the same point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to respond briefly to my honourable friend, the Government House Leader. I'm aware of the fact that the official opposition has requested time to present their view on this extremely important point of order. I say that not out of any personal hubris, but because I think it is a matter that should occupy and has occupied previous parliaments, but not in the form in which the House Leader misconstrued my argument. I was not selective in quotes, and when I quoted Speaker Lamoureux, it was to point out that what he referred to was the problem of omnibus bills. Excuse me, if I could speak without the honourable gentleman trying to interrupt me. What I was speaking to was that if it's a proper omnibus bill, in other words, if it has a theme, if it has a single purpose or relevancy, it's not for the Speaker to intervene. But it is clear on the precedents I cited, particularly Speaker Fraser's ruling from 1988 on the free trade agreement, that a bill must be first, and this is the first test. It doesn't require rewriting the standing rules. It's a matter of precedent. A bill must first be accepted as a proper omnibus bill. And if it's not a proper omnibus bill, it violates Standing Order 68 subs 3. I will not replace my arguments at this time or repeat them, merely to distinguish for you, Mr. Speaker, that every single thing the Government House Leader has said misses the entire legal point that I was making. No, a Speaker will not intervene to change the complexity, length, or number of bills within an omnibus bill if it is properly an omnibus bill. This one fails that test. It is not derived from items solely found in the budget. It is not derived solely to anything that can be called one theme. There is no excuse for putting in sections that have to do with changing the oversight of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, altering fish habitat legislation, changing the role of Parks Canada wardens. The numbers and scope of the changes that were never mentioned in the budget itself, combined with the numbers of things that honourable members from Privy Council believe to actually be in the bill, which clearly are not there, suggest this bill is, as the French version of the rule says, incomplete, or the English version, imperfect. It is imperfect in shape and form. It is not a proper omnibus bill, and I would invite you, Mr. Speaker, to await the argumentation from the official opposition, and I look forward to what I hope will be, and trust, will be an impartial, fair judgment in the interest of protection of Westminster parliamentary democracy and the institution of this Parliament itself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Orders of the day.